Good morning, everyone. Right now it's like a really beautiful morning, and I thought it would be a really perfect time to kind of talk about this right now, and really like just my visit to Chinatown and just some of my experience. Now granted, this is not the first time I went to a Chinatown in my city, but it's been a long stretch since I last went, and this was like literally my third time in a long hiatus of going to Chinatown. So I don't remember a lot of the establishment that may have been there and what new things may have been added. But my whole purpose of going to Chinatown was to show my support for Asian people. And initially, before I went, I kept convincing myself that it was a good idea, and then there was that other part of my mind that made me felt like, you know what, I don't want to like be too far out of my comfort zone. I'm going to be like probably the only black guy there, and then on top of that, I'm going to be wearing a shirt that says "Stop Asian Hate," and I'm going to stand out, and people are going to be looking at me, and just going to be overall completely out of my comfort zone. And so I just was just thinking about it, and then finally the positive side kicked in, where it's like, you know what, maybe a lot of people will probably be happy to see somebody outside of their community supporting Asian people. So I just went with my guts on that one. I just said, you know what, I'm just gonna go to Chinatown. You only live once, basically. So I go to Chinatown, I get there, and I had my camera with me, and I was gonna try to record everything while I was there, but like, I tend to be a very shy person, and so that's why I didn't do much recording. And as I was walking through Chinatown, I often had to pretend that I was on my phone, because especially if I was walking down like a long stretch, like a hallway or something, and then there's like a bunch of Asian girls on the other end walking towards me, and I get extremely shy, and it's just like, they probably read my shirt, and they're probably gonna be looking at me like all in the face, like, you know, who's that guy? And so I have to like make sure I have my mask up, and then, you know, so at least it could shield me from the shyness, and then pretend that I was on my phone, act like, you know, I didn't notice or something. So I tend to be a very shy person, and a lot of the times I would just like pretend that I was on my phone whenever I had that moment where people were walking directly at me as I'm walking in the other direction. So one of my first stops was I walked into a grocery store, and trust me, it was really a nice grocery store. Like, this is like well stocked, and everything was all nicely put together, and I was like, wow, I'm impressed. This is like better than like Albertsons or something. So I just went in to get like water, just to kind of start my whole journey inside Chinatown, just to get a feel of, you know, just being right among Chinese and Asian people in general. So obviously some people noticed the shirt, some people didn't, but I try not to pay attention to much of that in my mind. So I head to the back. I found just random water. I wasn't really looking for anything in particular. I just kind of walked through, and I was like, let me just grab this water here, just to kind of start it off. I make my way to the front. I bought the water, and then I was out the front door. So I started walking along Chinatown, and I noticed there was like a lot of restaurants just packed with a lot of people. And I thought, you know what, maybe I should eat, just to kind of sit down and eat. But I didn't want to go into a restaurant that had so many people inside, and I didn't want to have to be the guy who comes in as the only person by myself, sitting down at a table full of Asian people, and I'm just like the odd one out. So I found a restaurant where it's like really bright. Holy cow. I'm sorry, I have to apologize because the sun is rising up and it's like making the video much brighter. I just now noticed it until now because I'm like looking at the lens. So to pretty much pick up where I left off, I didn't want to go to any other restaurant that was like extremely packed, but I managed to find like a little small restaurant where it was just like no one in it. And so I just went inside that one. I was just like, you know what, YOLO, and I just walked in. And as I was walking in, the lady who was behind the cash register, I think she was Chinese, noticed my shirt and she did like a double take. She was like 1, 2, because she noticed my shirt, and it was like she just reacted in her head and was probably having a whole conversation in her head like, wow, this is unusual. There's this black guy coming in here with a shirt that says "Stop Asian Hate." You know, it's like she was having this whole conversation in her head, it seemed like. So I came in and she gave me like, you know, the whole menu thing. I sat down and I was kind of looking through the menu. I picked out what I wanted and I let her know. And I think she went to the back and she was talking to some of the people in the back, and I think she was telling them that I had the shirt on. And so they were all kind of looking, you know, they weren't trying to like make it obvious, but I could tell that they were trying to look. And I guess they couldn't really see me because I was sitting down. But eventually, once my meal came in, and I guess more customers started coming in and ordering, my meal came in, I sat down and I ate. And by the time when it came to around the time where it was time to pay for my meal, because I had to pay for it at the end, it came to roughly about maybe $17 or $16, and I was short by maybe 10 bucks or something. And I was going to be paying this in card, but I guess they didn't take card, they only take cash, and I get $20 like with the maximum or something. So I asked the lady, I was like, well, I'm like short on change, is there any ATM that I can go to? And she says, oh, there's one that's like right across with like a shopping center. So knowing how it looks that I'm going to be leaving out of the establishment to go get money out of the ATM and then come back, it just like, I already was feeling like, man, I gotta leave, she might have this perception of me. So I had my camera, I had everything that I had with me, and I had to take it with me because I didn't want no one to like take it or anything. So I took everything with me, realizing how it probably might look. So I went to the like next door and I find the ATM machine like immediately, but the ATM machine was down. So I'm waiting in the line where there's like a lady who was like helping the customer, and I'm kind of just waiting for them to get finished, and then I would ask the lady if there was like another ATM somewhere, or if somehow that one works or something. So that had to have been like around roughly 5 minutes while I was waiting. And I'm pretty sure the lady back at the restaurant was probably thinking that, at least in my head, that she might be thinking that I'm probably not going to come back and pay for the meal. So finally the customer was done. I asked the lady if there was like another ATM, and she said there was one that was like up the street. I had to go to like a Wells Fargo. So it was just literally up the street, so I just walked up to Wells Fargo, and it took me a minute to find where the ATM machine was, because the way how their place was, like, it was just so weirdly built, and I couldn't find it at first. And so I managed to find it. I got the amount of change that I needed, and I think by that time maybe about 15 to 20 minutes had passed. So I was definitely sure that maybe the lady thought that I probably skipped out on paying the meal. And like, I was having this whole conversation in my own head, trying to reassure the lady that I'm going to be back to pay the meal. I'm going to be back to pay the meal. Don't worry, I'm going to be back to pay the meal. So I make my way back, trying to be, you know, like quickly as I could. And I walk back into the restaurant, and I noticed the lady just had this look on her face, like, you know, surprised basically. And I paid for the meal, everything went very smoothly, and I noticed how the interaction, or how she interacted with me, compared to how she was in the beginning. Not to say that she mistreated me or anything, it's nothing about that. It was just, when I walked in to order, it was sort of like a confusion. And as I came back in to pay for the meal, it was sort of like a appreciation. She had like this appreciation gesture towards me. And I smiled, she smiled, and as I was heading out, I had held the door open for one of the workers who was, I guess, gonna take food out to somebody or something. And he noticed the shirt. Some of the customers who were eating noticed the shirt. I even saw one lady kind of pointing, or well, pointing in my direction low-key, and the husband turned back and looked, and people overall noticed the shirt, and they just kind of reacted in their head. So I thought that was good. Even if they don't say anything to me, they saw the shirt and saw that, you know, with them being Asian and then me being completely you know, a different person who's outside of that community, is speaking out in my own way. So I thought that was good that people were seeing the shirt. So then I go into the shopping center that was the next door where the ATM machine was, and almost immediately one of the ladies there was already trying to like sell me some like bracelets and stuff. And so I thought about my mom, and I was like, you know what, let me just get her something nice, considering how Mother's Day is also coming up. So was picking out a gift. The lady also noticed my shirt, and she was like, you know, thank you for supporting Asian people. And I don't know if the shirt had anything to do with it, but she gave me a $5 discount because I was short by $5, because she didn't also take a card, she took cash, and I was down by like $5. And she was like, you know what, just today's a discount. You're gonna get a $5 discount, but don't tell nobody that I gave you that discount. I was like, all right, cool. And so she really did like the shirt. After I finished buying some stuff from her, right across with another another shop, and it was with an older Asian gentleman. I think he had to have been roughly in his 70s maybe, just like give or take. And as I was walking to his shop, he noticed the shirt, and he was like, you know, thank you for supporting Asian people, and I like the shirt, and that you're speaking out for Asian people. And I'm like, yes, this is exactly what I came here for, to let Asian people know that I'm supporting Asian people by wearing the shirt and doing it in my own way. You know, whether they say anything to me or they don't, they know that they saw the shirt and that I'm there to support Asian people. So the guy immediately noticed it right away, and it was like a really cool interaction that we had, and we were just talking most of the time. And I was going around looking around to see if there was anything that I would like to get. And really, I was just buying just to support Asian. And there was a lot of things that I did want it. Trust me, there was a lot of things that I did want it. So I was just kind of going around, just hitting up every shop that was in that shopping center to try to at least buy one thing. And so that's what I was doing. Every shop that I would hit up, people would notice the shirt, whether they said anything or not. It really didn't matter as long as they noticed it. And so I had got a lot of things. And by this point, I must have spent maybe about an hour or two just in general in the Chinatown. So I just figured it was time for me to head home. Now this is where things kind of take a turn for the worse, just a little bit. So I'm walking through the parking lot, and I noticed there's this Asian guy who's walking in my direction, and he's like looking down at his phone. So I didn't really pay any attention to it, because he's going his way, I'm going my way. But we're about to intersect like this. And what ended up happening was, when he looked up, like just instantly right there, is this thing getting brighter again? Holy cow. Hang on, let me stop this here again. Okay, sorry, that was a random cut. It seemed, because the sun is still coming up, and I had to change my setting to bring down the brightness. So to pick up where I last left off, so basically, where was I? So I was walking through the parking lot. There's an Asian man who was walking towards me. Looked like he was roughly about in his, like maybe later 40s, 50s. No, healthy. He's walking in my direction. I'm walking in his direction. We're about to intersect, and he's looking down at his phone the whole time. And so when he had looked up, he noticed me, but he didn't see the shirt. He just like kind of looked at me directly in the eyes. And the sad part was, I noticed how he had this instant fear. It was just kind of like a, you know, like a caught off guard moment. And I'm gonna tell you how he did it. So we're walking. He's got his head down, he's walking. He noticed me, and he literally go to the side. Like he went far off to the side to avoid me. And I could tell right then, just from when he had noticed me, that he had all of the stereotypes running through his mind of a black person, and the thug imagery that is constantly promoted in black culture. And just in general, a lot of the, you know, just in general, just the fact that there's been a lot of black attacking Asian recently, especially, just like it's been a rise of black people attacking Asian. And so I noticed, like I basically read his mind. Like I was basically I basically tapped into his mind and I read everything that was going on. It was like all the stereotypes of a black person, all the recent crimes that's been going on, and a lot of the crimes that's been committed by black people was just all running through his mind. And he just like took a far step to the right, trying to avoid me, in fear that I may rob him or attack him or try to, you know, do harm to him. And I'm not gonna lie, that really did hurt, because here I am for the sole reason of being in Chinatown and completely out of my comfort zone, what to show my support for Asian people. And here you have this one guy who didn't even notice the shirt. He just looked directly, you know, eye to eye, and like he just freaked out basically. So after we had passed, and I don't think I even looked back. I just kept on going. I just kind of shook my head, and I guess he just went his own way. But I low-key did feel hurt about that. It was just like, wow, I pretty much read his mind, and I pretty much see how he perceived me as a bad person, and that he was in fear for his life at that very moment. You know, he wasn't taking any chances. And it messed me up for a minute. It really did mess me up all the way home. I was just kind of thinking about that, like, damn, like that was pretty, that really messed me up. And then I just started thinking about the flip side of things. Like, you know, I was just thinking, like, you know, if I was in his shoes, and, you know, there's been a lot of attack against Asian people, and then you see a young black man walking in your direction, you know, because I'm in that age range, you might perceive somebody a certain way, and you don't want to take any chances to be attacked, or you don't want to be the next victim, basically. Even though it was wrong that he had, you know, judged me, at the same time, I was able to understand why he came to that thought process. And that's when I began to realize, you know, like, I don't think this man is racist. You know, he just was worried that, you know, because of a lot of what's been going on lately, you know, a lot of Asians are in, like, alert to not be the next victim. And so that's when I began to, like, realize, you know, like, calming down and not taking things personal. Like, I wasn't going to take it personal, obviously, but I was able to realize, you know, like, even though this man thought of me a certain way, I'm still going to speak out for Asian people. You know, I understand why he felt that way, and I don't want no harm to come to him, trust me. Like, even though he thought of me a certain way, and you know, I would never do something like that, but even though he thought of me a certain way, even though he felt the way about me, won't change how I feel about human life. And if that were to occur again by another person, like, that's just a part of life. You're gonna have people who are gonna feel a certain way, you know. So until, I mean, the way how I put it is basically like this: if things were better, and we met under different circumstances, he would get to know me and I would get to know him, and things would actually be pretty good if things were, you know, if things were just different. So I didn't blame the guy for feeling that way. I didn't feel any, like, bitterness. I just felt kind of saddened in a way. But life goes on. And I also knew that because I spoke out, there were going to be a lot of Asian people who had viewed that video, who had really appreciated that I spoke out. And that sort of helped me, brought me right back to good spirit again. It's just like, even though one man felt a certain way, not all Asian communities feel that way. But I understand if a person does feel that way, is what I'm trying to say. So that was like my last interaction of like the last eventful thing that happened as I was leaving Chinatown, was that a person perceived me to be a bad person or likely to attack and rob him, which wasn't going to be the case. So I don't want to keep beating a dead horse and keep saying the same thing over and over, but overall, I try to look at the good side of things, where a lot of people had noticed my shirt and even, like, praised me for it, and was like, you know, thank you for supporting Asian people. It just, like, the more I thought about the positiveness of it, really brought me back to light, and just just wanted to, like, you know, understand that not all Asian people feel that way, even though some do. So that's really all I have to say. I did buy a lot of cool things. I had got my mom something, I got myself a few things, and I was planning on wanting to go back, and I think that restaurant that I visit is now going to be like my favorite personal spot that I might go to, you know, once in a while, or whenever I decide I want to go out to eat. I feel like I'm going to try to go there a lot more, because just to kind of get the people in the establishment to be more familiar with me as like a regular customer, and just overall being used to being out of my comfort zone around other groups of people, and not feel so shy whenever I'm walking through hallways or you know, like, you know, in directions where people might be coming in my direction. I probably won't be wearing the Stop Asian Hate shirt the next time I go, but overall I just kind of want to get used to that feeling of being outside of my comfort zone, to try to connect with people that I don't often connect with. And I feel like when you try to connect with people who are totally out of your culture, that's totally out of, you know, from a different world, you help build that bond, and it's just like people will begin to see you differently. And so that's kind of what I want to build, especially on the channel, with a lot of Asians who have been viewing this video, and they have been really praised, well, not this video, but my other one. And a lot of people have been telling me to keep going, and it's just like, I'm just kind of nervous because it's like so many people subscribing to the channel, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do now? So I don't know. So this is really like the first take of what I'm going to put out for the video, but this is not by any means the video that I was planning on working on, that I had mentioned in one of my comments from my last video, because I was actually working on a Asian history, like a deep dive into Asian history kind of video, where I just talk about a lot of the things that happened in the past as far as Asian becoming American in America, and a lot of the mistreatment. Pretty much like Black history, but Asian history. That's really what I'm trying to work on, and I've been like coming across a lot of research and just sort of like putting it all together, and it's been taking a lot of my time whenever I try to work on it. And so that will be hopefully my next video that I put up, if I can get it done soon. So anyone who is watching this, thank you for watching it to the very end, and thank you very much for subscribing to my channel, although I'm like kind of nervous about what I'm going to do. But thank you for just overall sending a lot of encouragement and kind words for me for just even making that video. I mean, that video I never expected anyone would watch. End up being the one that is now being shared all across America. Well, at least I think it is anyway. So that's it for now. I don't want to keep talking over and over and over. So I'll see you guys when I see you guys.